You were not born to chase checks. You were not put on this earth to trade hours for money until your body breaks and your soul forgets how to dream. You were not meant to live for weekends, for permission slips, for someone else's schedule, just to survive another month. You were meant to build something lasting, something sovereign, something that pays you while you sleep, not because you gamed the system, but because you mastered yourself. This world pays for one thing: skill, not popularity, not potential, skill. And the rarest kind? The kind that pays when your hands are still, when your eyes are closed, when you're gone from the room, but your work still moves through the world. That doesn't come from talent. It comes from devotion. It comes from choosing to become so good, so precise, so deeply useful that the marketplace never forgets your name. But most people will never taste that kind of wealth because they're waiting for someone to notice them, waiting for motivation, waiting to feel ready. You want the truth? The world is not waiting for your potential. It's waiting for your proof. And the only way to build proof, work on your skill set until it pays you in your sleep, until it outlasts you, until it replaces you, until it compounds beyond you. Every hour you invest in mastery is a down payment on freedom, not just financial freedom, mental freedom, the freedom to rest without panic, the freedom to travel without guilt, the freedom to stop working without your income stopping too. But freedom has a price, and that price is preparation. If you are not being paid while you sleep, it means you are still living in a reality where time is your only currency. And time is limited. But skill is infinite. It multiplies. It scales. It transcends the clock. And that's your job now, to take your time and turn it into talent. To take your talent and turn it into a tool. To take that tool and build a machine that works even when you don't. But let's be clear. This is not about hustle. This is about honor. Honoring your gift enough to refine it. Honoring your future enough to suffer for it. Honoring the vision of your life that says, I will not die a servant to the clock. Because when your skill set is sharp enough, you don't have to beg for work. You don't have to pitch yourself to every room. You become the room. People come to you. Deals chase you. Money finds you. Because your value is no longer just in effort, it's in effect. You become irreplaceable. Not because you talk louder, but because you deliver deeper. And that depth is built in the shadows, in the silence, in the repetition no one sees. When you're up studying while the world sleeps. When you're refining the details no one claps for. When you're doing it again and again and again until excellence is the only language you speak. Because mastery is not built in the spotlight. It's built in obsession, in the hidden hours, in the unsexy work, in the moments no one posts about, but everyone feels when you walk in the room. And here's the part no one wants to hear. You won't get there quickly. You won't get there comfortably. But if you get there correctly, you'll never be broke again. Because skill, real skill, is recession-proof. It's platform-proof. It's algorithm-proof. It's pandemic-proof. Skill doesn't need trends, it creates them. It doesn't fear the future, it funds it. So stop asking how long it'll take. Ask how long you'll tolerate being average. Ask how long you'll keep gambling your future on luck instead of building leverage with skill. Because there is a version of you who never has to chase again. A version who moves with calm confidence, who earns while resting, who creates more in a week than others do in a year. And that version is not a fantasy. It is simply the end result of a person who refused to stay ordinary. A person who picked one thing and mastered it until it paid them in sleep. Because once you taste the kind of wealth that works while you rest, you can never go back. You can't unsee it. You can't unfeel it. You can't pretend you're satisfied with trading time for money when you've seen what it means to trade skill for sovereignty. You realize that what you thought was freedom before was just a different version of bondage. a prettier cage, more flexible handcuffs. Because if your income stops when you stop, you're still a prisoner, and no one is coming to break you out. No mentor, no grant, no job, just you, your decision, your discipline to take that raw talent you've been sitting on and refine it like your life depends on it, because it does. To work on your craft until it pays you in perpetuity. You don't have to do everything. You just have to do one thing so well that the world never forgets what you bring. Skill is not just about competence. It's about capital. It's about becoming someone who creates so much value. You're not just paid for your time. You're paid for your presence. And eventually, you're paid for your absence. That's when you know you've built something real. Because now your work lives without you. Your systems move without you. Your influence echoes when you're offline. But that life, that dream, it doesn't come to the one who dabbles. It comes to the one who decides, the one who goes all in, the one who says, I will become so skilled, so useful, so damn effective that the world reorganizes itself to make space for my greatness. And that kind of skill isn't about information. It's about transformation. It's about going from someone who learns to someone who embodies, from someone who consumes to someone who creates value so potent it becomes a revenue stream in itself. And yes, it will be lonely. It will be boring. It will feel like no one sees you. But keep building. Keep sharpening. Keep showing up for the craft, not the credit. Because there's a silent wealth being built behind every skill session. Behind every rep, every hour, every lesson repeated until it becomes muscle memory. And when you do it long enough, deep enough, ruthlessly enough, you cross over. You stop grinding for every dollar. You stop hoping for referrals. You stop worrying about your next client. Because you become the asset. You become the brand. You become the one they call when it matters most. And that doesn't just feed your wallet. It feeds your legacy. It changes your last name. It frees your family. It breaks the cycle. It sets a new standard. But you'll never get there by being kind of good. You'll never get there with average focus. You'll never get there if you're still addicted to comfort. You only get there by working on your skill set like your freedom depends on it. Because it does. This is the truth. There are people out there earning tanks more than you. Not because they're smarter, not because they're better, but because they became more useful, more valuable, more rare. And the world pays a premium for what is rare. So become rare. Become excellent. Become so damn skilled that your silence earns more than your shouting ever could. That your systems out-earn your hustle. That your reputation opens doors before you even arrive. That's the game. Not clout. Not noise. Skill. Because skill without vision is motion without meaning. You can get really good at doing the wrong thing. You can climb a ladder straight into a wall you never meant to lean against. You can build your entire life mastering a craft that doesn't set your soul on fire. So once you've chosen skill, you must pair it with vision, a direction, a mission, a future so clear that your work stops being about transactions and becomes about transformation. Vision is what makes the pain worth it. Vision is what makes you turn down distractions. Vision is what turns exhaustion into fuel. It reminds you, I'm not here just to earn. I'm here to build something that outlives me. And when your skill aligns with your vision, you no longer work from fear. You work from fire. You're no longer pulled by obligation. You're pushed by destiny. And when that destiny takes root, your life stops being about goals and becomes about purpose. Purpose makes you powerful. It makes you precise. It gives your skill set a soul. Because now you're not just good at what you do, you're needed for it. You're called to it. You're responsible for it. And that kind of purpose, it doesn't burn out. It doesn't lose steam. It evolves. It multiplies. It recruits the best in you. But even with purpose, even with clarity, you will be tested. That's why you need resilience. Because the path to mastery will break you. It will humble you. It will stretch you beyond anything you thought you could endure. And that's the point. Because only pressure makes something precious. Only pressure reveals who you really are. And only those who endure it without retreating earn the right to get paid in their sleep. Resilience is knowing the setbacks are not signs to stop. They are signs that you're stretching into greatness. Every failure, a forge. Every loss, a lesson. Every rejection, a redirection pointing you back to your lane, your rhythm, your calling. And when you've been broken and rebuilt enough times, when you've stood inside the storm and learned to breathe in it, when you've cried, bled, and still showed up, you become dangerous. Because now you're not chasing skill, you are skill. You don't just work for money. Money works for you. You've built something no one can steal. Not the algorithm, not a recession, not a trend. Because when your skill is rooted in service, when your discipline is married to vision, when your purpose is infused into your execution, you become unstoppable. This is what it means to be paid in your sleep. It's not just about money while resting. It's about freedom through mastery. It's about peace through preparation. It's about waking up to find your systems working, your ideas compounding, your work echoing, even when you're not in the room. That is real wealth. That is real power. That is what you've been building toward all along. And now it's time to seal it in your soul, to declare that you are no longer available for mediocrity, no longer interested in being good enough, no longer satisfied with staying in the crowd. You were built to rise, to lead, to master, to walk into rooms with the quiet confidence of someone who knows, I've done the work. I carry the weight. I deserve everything that's coming to me because I built it when no one was watching. You want the dream? You want the freedom? You want the impact? Then work on your skill set until it pays you in sleep. And when it does, never stop building. Never stop sharpening. Never stop becoming the person who turns ordinary hours into extraordinary wealth. Because skill isn't just what you do. It's who you are. And when who you are is rare, the world will never stop paying attention. Not with a whisper, but with a war cry. Not with motivation, but with transformation. Not with, you can do it, but with, you already are it, now act like it. Because the final truth is this: you were never meant to grind forever. You were meant to grow into greatness. You were never meant to stay stuck in the loop of hustle and hope. You were meant to build something that breathes without you. That's the reward of relentless refinement. That's the consequence of consistent excellence. That's what you unlock when you work on your skill set until it pays you in sleep. And once you get there, once you taste that level of freedom, once you see income flowing from the work you've already done, from the systems you've built, from the impact you've made, you'll never crave comfort again. Because you'll understand that comfort never made you wealthy. Comfort never gave you peace. Comfort never bought your time back. Skill did. Discipline did. Vision did. Purpose did. So now you walk differently. You speak from a place of knowing. You no longer explain yourself. You exemplify what happens when a person goes all in on their gift. People ask you how you did it. They ask for hacks, tips, shortcuts, and you look them in the eye and say, I outlasted my excuses. I showed up when it was boring. I studied when it was easy to scroll. I built myself until I didn't need to convince anyone. I became the evidence. That's who you are now. You are no longer a product of pressure. You are a product of preparation. You are no longer waiting for the world to recognize you. You are building a world where they can't function without you. Because when your name becomes synonymous with value, When your work starts to pay you 24 hours a day. When your craft becomes so sharp that it cuts through noise without needing a single word. You're not just successful, you're untouchable. So wherever you are right now, whatever level you're at, whatever obstacles still stand, decide. Decide that from this moment forward, you will no longer settle for effort without excellence. You will no longer call motion progress. You will no longer accept any version of you that doesn't build wealth, peace, and legacy on autopilot. Your gift is too sacred. Your potential is too real. Your future is too heavy to carry with shallow skill. So build something deep, something divine, something so refined, so potent, so unmistakably valuable that even while you sleep, the world keeps paying you for what you've created. Because that's the goal. Not just to get rich, not just to get known, but to become someone whose work speaks without a mouth, earns without a hand, and leads without being present. This is the era of mastery. And the masters, they don't hustle forever. They build so well, so wisely, so skillfully. They don't have to. Now go and work on your skill set until it pays you in sleep. And then keep sharpening until it pays generations long after you're gone. It begins with fire. It flows through identity, discipline, vision, purpose, resilience, and ends in a climactic, soul-shaking conclusion exactly as requested. No fluff, no breaks, just pure, conviction-driven transformation. If you'd like, I can format it into a downloadable script, storyboard it for cinematic production, or create a shorter version for trailers and social media. You can't outrun your reflection. You can't outmarket your integrity. You can't outsell your laziness. You can't out-network your self-doubt. And no matter how clever your tactics or how loud your brand, you can't out-earn the person you are. Because income is not luck. It's identity. And every dollar you earn is a direct report card on the version of you that walked into the world this week. Wealth doesn't come to the version of you you pretend to be. It comes to the one you've built through discipline, through decisions, through deep, uncomfortable, soul-breaking development. You can dress the part. You can speak the language. You can surround yourself with big thinkers and high performers. But if you haven't yet become the person who can handle wealth, it will slip through your fingers like water every time. Because the marketplace doesn't lie. It reflects. And the truth is, most people are trying to add commas to their bank account without upgrading the core operating system behind it. They want more wealth, but they haven't expanded their capacity. They want more opportunity, but they haven't upgraded their discipline. They want new results while still operating under old programming. But life doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are when no one's watching, who you are when the emotion fades, who you are when consistency is required, but convenience is calling. And every result in your life, your income, your health, your relationships is simply a reflection of that person. You don't earn what you wish for. You earn what you are aligned with. If you want more, become more. Because you can't rise above your self-concept. You can't maintain $1 million result with a minimum wage mindset. You will always fall to the level of your internal thermostat. And unless you raise that thermostat, your habits, your beliefs, your energy, your rituals, your results will sabotage themselves. It's not sabotage from the outside. It's sabotage from within. Because your nervous system will fight to return to what feels familiar. And if chaos is familiar, you'll recreate it. If lack is familiar, you'll reproduce it. If comfort is king in your world, growth will always feel like war. So the first step to earning more is not doing more. It's becoming someone who is wired for more. That means doing the deep work, upgrading your beliefs, installing new habits, letting go of your identity as someone who hustles just to survive and stepping into the identity of someone who expects overflow. Not because it's guaranteed, but because they've become the kind of person who backs their vision with execution, who shows up when it's inconvenient, who trains when others sleep, who delivers when others delay. Because when you build yourself, everything else catches up. The clients show up. The contracts land. The doors open. The right people arrive. Not because you manipulated them, but because you magnetized them. And magnetism comes from identity. It comes from a deep, unshakable knowing that you are no longer trying to get rich. You are living in a way that makes wealth an inevitable side effect. You've moved past wishing, past waiting, past wanting. You are now working on the only thing that actually changes your life. You, the inner architecture, the daily rituals, the standard you hold when no one's keeping score, the invisible disciplines that silently compound until your life becomes unrecognizable. And here's what no one tells you. The version of you that is earning what you desire already exists. But you must kill off the version of you that keeps you small. The version addicted to distraction. The version who plays victim to the market. The version who blames the system instead of building something that transcends it. Because until that part of you dies, your destiny can't breathe. You can't keep carrying the old you and expecting a new life. That baggage has weight. It costs energy. It dilutes your focus. And every time you try to run faster while dragging it, your body remembers the truth. You are still moving like someone who's afraid to let go of who they were. But the only path forward is rebirth. The death of the performer, the death of the pretender, the death of the excuse maker, and the rise of someone so aligned with growth, with truth, with integrity, that wealth becomes a natural reflection, not a forced pursuit. You don't chase it anymore. You attract it by alignment. And what does alignment look like? It looks like discipline in the dark. It looks like studying when your friends are sleeping. It looks like learning from every failure without making it part of your identity. It looks like knowing exactly who you are and never outsourcing your worth to applause, rejection, or results. You want more? Don't work harder. Work deeper. Work on the root, not the branches. Because the fruit you're producing is tied to the roots you've grown in silence. And if you grow them deep enough, if you do the boring work, the inner work, the uncelebrated work, you will not be able to stop the results. They will chase you down because they won't be a reward. They'll be a reflection because mindset is the soil where every result is born. And most people are planting seeds of greatness into soil poisoned by doubt. They want abundance while rehearsing scarcity. They want excellence while tolerating average. They want to rise while surrounding themselves with voices that have never flown. But a wealthy life cannot grow in a poor mindset. And poverty is not just a financial condition, it is a mental posture. It is the posture of, I'm doing my best, instead of, I'll find a better way. It is the belief that someone else holds the key, instead of realizing you are the key. Your life will never go where your thoughts don't lead. Your money will never exceed your mental capacity. Your freedom will never outgrow your frame of identity. So what do you believe? Truly. About yourself? About money? About success? About what you're worth? Because your actions are already answering. Every late alarm, every skipped plan, every justification for staying comfortable that's belief talking, every time you say, this is just who I am, that's not personality. That's a prison. Every time you dismiss an opportunity because you feel unqualified, that's not humility. That's habitual self-sabotage. And it ends when your vision becomes stronger than your history. When the image of where you're going pulls harder than the voice of who you've been. Because vision is the fire that turns effort into obsession. It's the reason you say no to average. It's the reason you walk away from what's good because you're after what's yours. Without vision, discipline feels like suffering. With vision, discipline becomes devotion. And yes, you will need discipline. Not just to work harder, but to work wisely. To guard your energy. To focus your time like a sniper, not a sprinkler. To build rituals so powerful they build you back. Discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It protects your potential from being wasted on trivial things. It protects your future from being buried beneath distraction. It protects your legacy from being diluted by inconsistency. Every time you honor your word to yourself, every time you do the thing no one else is willing to do, every time you delay gratification to build something unshakable, you are building you. The person who can out-earn, outlast, outserve, and out-impact anything you've ever dreamed of. And once you become that person, money doesn't become the goal. It becomes the consequence. You no longer measure wealth in numbers. You measure it in who you've become, in how calm you are in chaos, in how deeply you can serve, in how many lives you shift just by standing in your truth. Because now, your presence is your power. Your words carry weight. Your life becomes a transmission of what's possible when you finally stop negotiating with the version of yourself that kept you small. That version? Let it die. Let it go. You've outgrown it. Now, you walk in vision. You move in discipline. You breathe belief. And you don't just want success anymore. You embody the kind of person who creates it. Because once belief becomes breath, once discipline becomes your rhythm, what's next is clarity. Clarity is the compass. Without it, effort becomes chaos. You can be busy every hour and still end up nowhere. Motion is not progress. Urgency is not purpose. And doing more doesn't matter if you're unclear on why you're doing it. Clarity cuts through the noise. It says, this is who I am. This is what I build. These are the standards I protect at all costs. You no longer wake up hoping to find direction. You wake up and execute the vision you've already written in your soul. Clarity doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from doing. It sharpens in the fire of action. You take a step, you get feedback, you adjust again and again until your path is no longer a guess, it's a mission. And once you have clarity, action becomes sacred, not frantic, not performative, but precise, deliberate, focused like a blade sharpened for impact. You stop being available for everything. You stop explaining your every move. You stop trying to impress because now you're too busy building something unforgettable. This is how you become powerful, not by what you say, but by what you finish, by what you consistently complete, by what you ship while others are still starting. Action is the proof, the signal to life itself that you're no longer playing games with your potential. And yet, even with clarity and action, the journey will test you. That's why you need resilience, not the fake kind that pretends nothing hurts, but the real kind that keeps building while bleeding, that adapts without breaking, that knows how to bend without shattering. Because you will fail. You will be misunderstood. You will have days where the results don't match the effort. But resilience whispers, this day is part of the process, not the definition. Resilience keeps you grounded in the long game. It reminds you that wealth is not won in days, it's won in decades of directionally correct decisions. That when others quit, you refine. When others panic, you pause and recalibrate. When others fall apart, you fall forward. You turn pressure into power. You turn setbacks into strategy. Because now you are not the same. You are no longer fragile. You are forged. Every hard day, every detour, every sleepless night, it wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Preparation for the moment. You would finally look in the mirror and realize you can't out-earn the person you are, but you can become the person who earns without limit. And now you are. You are not the same version of yourself that waited, that wished, that wavered. You've built a new identity, one forged in belief, sharpened by clarity, driven by discipline, anchored in action, hardened by resilience, and reborn in the fire of truth. And the truth is this: the greatest return on investment is not found in the market, not in crypto, not in real estate, not in stocks. It is found in you. Your identity is the greatest wealth vehicle you will ever build. And once that foundation is solid, once your standards are locked, once your values are untouchable, once your energy no longer leaks, once your vision is clear and your actions consistent, you become limitless. You become the kind of person who doesn't just rise with the tide, you change it. You don't just compete in the game, you design the field. You don't just ask for wealth, you embody the reason it should exist. And from here, your story is no longer about chasing success. It's about leading with value so deeply, so powerfully, that success becomes your echo. Not because you reached for it, but because you became the one who draws it in like gravity. Then listen closely, because this is where everything converges. This is the moment where the lies fall away, where your excuses dissolve, where your past stops dictating your worth, and your identity steps into its rightful place on the throne. You can't out-earn the person you are, but you can rebuild the person you are into someone who earns without limits. No more pretending. No more waiting to feel ready. No more blaming your boss, your city, your algorithm, your upbringing, your timing. You are the algorithm now. You are the system. You are the economy. You are the source. The money doesn't make you. You make the money. The results don't define you. You define the results. Because now you've seen what few ever realize. You are not a product of circumstance. You are a product of standard. And the person who holds the standard holds the power, holds the peace, holds the wealth. Because wealth is not just an income, it's the byproduct of internal alignment. And alignment is only earned through transformation, not inspiration, not temporary motivation. Transformation from the inside out. Every day. No fanfare. No applause. Just the daily decision to never again let the old you drive your future. That version is done. The version who hid behind overthinking, who drowned in doubt, who procrastinated on their greatness. That version is not equipped for where you're going. But the one who's emerging now, the one who believes differently, moves deliberately, lives decisively, that version has already changed everything, because the shift already happened inside of you. And the outside world is simply catching up. You no longer fear the future. You architect it. You no longer wish for abundance. You align with it. You no longer chase validation. You walk in value. And the income, it'll come. It has to. Because the person you've become commands it. Not with arrogance, but with alignment. Not with ego, but with evidence. Not with noise, but with non-negotiables. From this moment forward, you are not earning from effort alone. You are earning from identity. You are building wealth from the core. You are writing a legacy with your decisions. You are no longer defined by what you used to be. You are now remembered for what you chose to become. So walk tall, speak truth, live sharp, lead with fire, and let the world feel what it looks like. When a human being finally understands, you cannot out-earn the person you are, but you can become someone wealth never dares to leave again. Now go and build that person, live that person, be that person, and let the world rise to meet you. You don't need a raise. You need to raise your value, because no one gets paid for existing. No one gets rewarded for just showing up. You're not paid for time. You're paid for impact. And the world, this brutal, beautiful, fast-moving world, does not give you what you want. It gives you what you earn, and you earn it in value. Raise your value, and the money follows. Raise your value, and the doors open. Raise your value, and the world, indifferent as it seems, starts to notice. You see, most people have this backwards. They're sitting there, waiting for the boss to recognize them, waiting for the market to reward them, waiting for some moment when someone taps them on the shoulder and says, "Hey, you deserve more." But that moment never comes. Not because you're not worthy, but because the world doesn't see worth. The world sees value. And value is visible, tangible. It moves things forward. It solves problems. It saves time. It increases profits. It brings peace. It makes life better, faster, smoother, stronger. That's value. And when you raise your value, you never have to beg for more. You attract more. But raising your value starts with raising your standards. Not just the standards of what you expect from others, the standards of what you demand from yourself. Your work ethic, your energy, your attention to detail, your emotional intelligence, your communication, your consistency. These are your stock price. Every day they rise or fall based on the choices you make when no one's watching. Do you want to earn more? Don't ask for more. Become more. More skilled. More focused. More disciplined. More aware. More useful. Because here's the hard truth. Money doesn't respond to need. Money responds to value. And value is built through sweat, through sacrifice, through a relentless obsession with growth. The people at the top, they're not always the smartest. They're not always the most connected, but they're valuable. They figured out how to become irreplaceable. They mastered a skill, owned a space, delivered results consistently. They didn't just clock in. They showed up differently. They walked in with ideas. They solved the problem before it was assigned. They paid attention to details no one else saw. They cared more and proved it in execution. So ask yourself, how do you raise your value? Not one day, not when you're inspired, but every single day. You start with this mindset, because value doesn't grow in a weak mind. It grows in a mastered one, a mind that takes ownership, a mind that doesn't make excuses, a mind that's allergic to blame and addicted to responsibility. You don't say, "They didn't train me." You say, "I'll learn it myself." You don't say, "They don't see me." You say, "I'll build something they can't ignore." You don't wait for someone to change your circumstances. You become the change. That's value. It starts inside. And when your mindset levels up, your language changes. You speak possibility, not limits. You speak solutions, not complaints. You become the person in the room who calms the chaos, not adds to it. And suddenly, people take notice. Why? Because value is rare, and rare is remembered. From mindset, we move to belief. Because you can't raise your value if you don't believe you have value to raise. And that belief, it can't be faked. You either believe you're here for more, or you've bought the lie that this is it. But here's what I know. You wouldn't be here if you were done growing. You wouldn't be listening if you were meant to settle. So, stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for someone else to validate what you already know. You are capable. You are worthy. You are powerful. But now you must prove it. Not to them, to you. Prove it by building the skill. Prove it by showing up early. Prove it by staying late. Not for ego, not for approval, but because you're investing in your own stock value. Belief isn't just a feeling. It's an action. It's the courage to invest in yourself before the world does. And that belief feeds clarity. Because once you believe in your value, you stop chasing everything. You stop trying to do it all. You get clear on your strengths, your purpose, your direction. Because confused people dilute their value. They try to serve everyone and end up helping no one. They try to be everything and become nothing memorable. But when you're clear, you simplify. You specialize. You become known for something, not everything. and that something becomes your signature. Your value multiplies when your clarity sharpens. So, what are you building? What are you becoming the best at? What do you solve better than anyone around you? If you don't know yet, find out. Fast. Because once you do, your actions become aligned. Your energy becomes precise. Your results become inevitable. And when clarity takes root, you start to move with vision. Not blind ambition, not hustle for the sake of hustle, but intentional, focused, long-game vision. The kind of vision that creates legacy, not just lifestyle. You start to think beyond the next paycheck. You start building systems. You stop reacting and start designing. And in that vision, you see value expansion. You see how every book you read, every conversation you engage, every failure you endure is a deposit into the value account you're growing. You're no longer just working a job. You're building capital inside yourself. And that capital, that value, it eventually pays dividends the world can't ignore. And now comes the part where most people fall off. Discipline. Because once you have the mindset, the belief, the clarity, the vision, you're going to need the grit to keep showing up when the excitement disappears. You want to raise your value? Then raise your standards of consistency. Raise your tolerance for boredom. Raise your refusal to negotiate with distractions. Because raising your value isn't about doing more once. It's about doing the right things again and again until you become undeniably better. Discipline isn't sexy. Discipline doesn't post well on social media. Discipline doesn't get applause, not at first. But it gets wealth. It gets freedom. It builds respect first from yourself, then from everyone else. Discipline is when you study while others scroll. Discipline is when you refine your craft in silence while others perform in noise. Discipline is when you deliver no matter how you feel. That's how value grows. Every rep, every rep, every rep. And eventually, you look up and realize you didn't just change your income, you changed your identity. You became someone whose value is obvious even before you speak. And from discipline flows the river called action. Because the world does not pay for intentions. It does not compensate you for potential. You can have all the belief, vision, and goals in the world, but if you don't move, you'll never be rewarded. The marketplace is only moved by execution. People pay for what they can see, not what you say you might do. So act. Launch the thing. Make the call. Pitch the idea. Study the material. Build the system. Don't wait for perfect. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for anyone else to clap before you begin. You be the first to move. Because action creates momentum. And momentum creates confidence. And confidence increases your value. Because confidence is currency. People trust those who act. People follow those who take initiative. People remember those who do more than expected. Let others talk. Let others hope. You execute. You move with intent. You do the small things with precision and the big things with courage. And over time, you build a reputation. That's the person who gets it done. That reputation is value. It's the invisible resume. It's what makes people think of you when opportunity needs a name. And that kind of value can't be faked. It must be earned relentlessly, religiously, repeatedly. And as you act, you start to develop the rarest asset of all, self-trust. You become someone who keeps promises to yourself, and that is priceless. Now, as the action compounds, as the work deepens, you start to recognize something powerful. You're not doing this for applause. You're doing it because it's who you are now. And in that space, you find something unexpected. Gratitude. Gratitude not just for the rewards, but for the process, for the discipline, for the struggle, for the days when it was hard and you showed up anyway. Because when you live this way, when you raise your value every day, not out of ego, but out of principle, you become grateful for the challenge. You no longer resent the grind. You honor it because you see it now. The grind is what makes you valuable. It's not just the outcomes. It's the transformation. And with gratitude comes a quiet power. You're not bitter. You're not entitled. You're not desperate. You are centered. You are anchored in purpose. You can smile while working. You can serve while growing. You can succeed without arrogance because you earned it. And that's elite value. Gratitude also softens your energy in the right ways. It sharpens your focus without hardening your heart. It helps you rise without forgetting where you came from. It keeps your value human, not just productive. People feel it. They trust it. Because true value isn't loud. It's present. It's felt. And the more you practice gratitude, the more opportunities seem to find you not by chance, but by alignment. You're in the right rooms, saying the right things, with the right people, at the right time, because your energy matches your value. And now you begin to master one of the greatest accelerators of all, adaptability. Because if raising your value is the goal, then staying valuable is the game. And the rules of the game are always changing. Markets shift. Trends fade. Technology evolves. Industries transform overnight. And what used to be valuable, what used to work, can become obsolete faster than you can update your resume. This is why adaptability is not optional. It is the edge. Because value that can't adapt is value that expires. But here's the beautiful truth. The most valuable people are not just specialists. They are specialists who can evolve. They know how to let go of outdated methods while holding on to timeless principles. They learn fast. They respond faster. They pivot without panic. They are not afraid to start over, to rethink, to restructure, to reframe. Because they are not married to their method, they are married to the mission. They don't confuse pride with progress. They don't cling to what once worked just because it's familiar. They adapt. And in doing so, they stay ahead of the curve. While others are shaken by change, they ride it. While others complain about disruption, they innovate through it. And that's value in its most durable form. So if you want to raise your value long term, be humble enough to learn, fast enough to change, and bold enough to keep reinventing yourself. Don't wait to be pushed by change. Be pulled by evolution. Because every time you stretch, every time you upgrade your perspective, your environment, your tools, your skills, you expand your capacity to serve. And service at its core is the root of all lasting value. When you adapt, you do more than survive. You lead. And people pay leaders not for their titles, but for their ability to move first, with clarity, courage, and creativity. Now let's talk about the furnace that refines all of this. Resilience. Because raising your value isn't a straight line. It's not always a rise. Sometimes it's a refining fire. You'll fail. You'll be overlooked. You'll be misunderstood. You'll make the wrong move. Trust the wrong people. Bet on the wrong opportunity. And if you're not careful, you'll start to question your worth. But here's what you must understand. Your value does not disappear just because the world doesn't recognize it yet. You are valuable, and setbacks don't subtract from that. They sculpt it. Every failure, proof that you're in the arena. Every rejection, a redirection. Every loss, a lesson, a rep in the gym of your evolution. Resilience is what lets you reinvest in your value, even when the world isn't clapping. It's the voice that says, let's go again. It's the heart that beats steady, even when the world feels shaky. Resilience says, I am not here for the outcome. I am here for the becoming. And when you live that way, you become dangerous. Because the person who cannot be stopped, the person who keeps raising their value regardless of applause, regardless of adversity, regardless of delay, that person becomes unbeatable. Not because they're the smartest, not because they're the fastest, but because they're the last one standing. The most valuable thing you can ever become is someone who refuses to quit growing. That is how wealth is built. That is how freedom is earned. That is how legends are made. And you are becoming one. So stay in the fight. Refuse to shrink. Refuse to settle. Every day you keep growing, learning, adapting, serving, you compound your value. And when value compounds, everything changes. People start calling you instead of you chasing them. Opportunities start fitting you instead of you shrinking to fit them. You walk in rooms and your presence speaks louder than your resume. And why? Because you built it. You raised your value until the world had no choice but to raise its offer. And now we arrive at the summit, the climactic truth most never realize. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you've become, not what you hoped for, not what you wished for, not what you waited for. You get what you've built inside and out. And what you've built is a reflection of how much value you've created, how much you've expanded, how much you've endured, and how much you've raised your standards for who you are and how you show up in the world. Because this world, this beautiful, relentless, unforgiving world does not hand out rewards for presence. It pays for performance. It honors value. It elevates the useful, the courageous, the clear. And the more value you bring, the more lives you touch, the more problems you solve, the more excellence you embody, the higher you rise. You don't need a raise. You need to raise your expectations, your focus, your skill set, your execution, your vision, your voice, your contribution. Because once you raise your value truly, fully, unmistakably, the world has no choice but to raise its offer. They start asking for you. They start quoting you. They start building around you. Because now, you are the standard. Now, you don't hope for opportunity, you attract it. You don't beg for respect, you embody it. You don't need applause. Your work is the ovation. And listen closely. You may not be there yet. That's okay, because you're on the path. And the path is real. It's proven. It's walkable. Brick by brick. Step by step. One focused action at a time. But understand this. Every moment you wait for someone else to change your life, you forfeit the power to change it yourself. So stop waiting for a raise. Stop waiting for the boss to notice. Stop waiting for the economy to turn. Stop waiting for the world to be fair. Raise your value. Raise it in silence. Raise it in the dark. Raise it with intention, with effort, with integrity. Raise it when no one's watching. Raise it when you're tired. Raise it when you're doubting. Raise it until you become undeniable. And once you do, once the value inside you matches the greatness around you, that's when the money comes. That's when the freedom comes. That's when the rooms open. That's when the influence begins. And all of it started the day you decided to stop asking for more and started becoming more. So here's your final command. Raise your habits. Raise your thoughts. Raise your work. Raise your standards. Raise your relationships. Raise your execution. Raise your identity. Because when you raise your identity, you automatically raise your value. And when your value rises, the world will look at you differently, not because you begged for it, but because you earned it. Remember this. You don't need a raise. You need to raise your value. And once you do, the world will raise everything else around you to match the power of who you've become. You don't need to ask someone who they are. You don't need to listen to their speeches, read their goals, watch their highlight reels, or scroll through their curated posts. If you really want to know who someone is, look at their calendar. Because your calendar is not just a schedule. It is a mirror. It reflects your values. It exposes your habits. It reveals, without apology or distortion, the blueprint of your real character. What you choose to give your time to is what you worship. And what you consistently neglect That's what you silently betray. We can speak of dreams, but if there's no time blocked out to build them, those dreams are nothing but well-dressed lies. We can speak of family, of health, of legacy, but if they don't show up on the calendar, they don't show up in your life. That's the brutal, beautiful truth. Your calendar doesn't lie. Your calendar doesn't flatter. Your calendar doesn't care about your intentions. It only displays your integrity, because your character is not who you are when you're inspired. It's who you are when you plan. When you decide what deserves a slice of your 24 hours, that's where the real battle is. Not on the stage, not in the moment of crisis, but in the quiet, behind-the-scenes discipline of preparation. What you write down, what you commit to, what you schedule, that becomes your reality. You are not what you post. You are what you prioritize. Because here's the truth, no one wants to say, the people who build empires, who live with peace, who walk with power, they don't have more time than you. They just honor time more than you. They treat it like gold, like breath, like purpose in hours and minutes. And they protect it with ferocity, because they know time is not just currency, it's a vote. And every time you say yes to something, you're voting for a future. The question is, whose future are you voting for? Your growth or someone else's gossip? Your goals or someone else's crisis? Your legacy or your distractions? Because if your calendar is filled with things that don't reflect your values, you're not living a life, you're managing chaos. And chaos is where character goes to die. That's why the most powerful people on the planet don't just use a calendar, they live by it. They audit it. They defend it. They build a wall around what matters and eliminate what doesn't. Because they've learned, if you don't plan your priorities, the world will fill your schedule with theirs. And what's terrifying is how subtle it is. You don't wake up and decide to waste your life. You just forget to guard it. You leave your calendar open and the noise moves in. Meetings with no meaning, calls with no clarity, scrolling with no soul, tasks that check a box but don't move the needle. Before you know it, your life is full, but your purpose is starving. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can reclaim it. Right now, you can open your calendar and declare war on distraction. You can turn every block of time into a battlefield where you either win the hour or you lose your edge. Because every hour is a test. Every slot is a story. And the stories you schedule become the story of your life. So take back the pen. Fill your days with rituals, not reactions. Build time for silence, for study, for service, for strength. Make room for the person you're becoming, not just the obligations that drain you. And when someone asks who you are, don't speak. Show them your calendar. Show them what you made sacred. Because your schedule doesn't just predict your success. Your calendar predicts your character. Because what you consistently commit to is what you quietly become. Look again at your calendar, not with guilt, not with pride, but with clarity. Is it filled with distractions that keep you busy or disciplines that keep you becoming? Do you see a blueprint for mastery, a mosaic of motion with no meaning? Because motion isn't progress. Busy isn't productive. Availability isn't virtue. And a full schedule doesn't equal a full life. It's not how much you do, it's what you do that reveals who you are. It's the quiet commitments that no one sees. The non-negotiables you protect when the world throws chaos at your feet. It's waking up when you said you would. Working the plan you wrote when you were strong. Staying in motion when your feelings beg you to coast. That is character. And character doesn't explode into existence. It's crafted by what you do every single day, without applause, without cameras, without permission. So stop asking what the successful have that you don't. Ask what they schedule that you won't. Because while you're wishing, they're working. While you're planning someday, they're locking in today. While you're managing urgency, they're protecting their purpose. You say you want focus, but is there space for it? You say you want mastery, but is it booked? You say you want peace, but is it on your calendar or just a fantasy you scroll past while numbing out on your phone? Look closer. Where is your learning time? Where is your thinking time? Where is your strategy time? Where is your relationship building time? Where is your health, your soul, your future? Because if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. Wishing doesn't build wealth. Goals don't grow without structure. And life does not reward vague intentions. It rewards calendar-level clarity. It rewards those who understand the calendar is not just a tool, it's a template for transformation. You want to know why some people seem so consistent? Why they always seem to have time? Why they get results while others get reasons? It's not magic, it's management. Time management. But deeper than that, it's self-management. And your calendar is where the truth shows up. Not the version you pretend to be. The version that actually exists. Because no matter what you say, you value. You don't value it unless it shows up in how you spend your time. And the deeper truth, you are always becoming what your calendar reflects. If it reflects laziness, you become lazy. If it reflects urgency, you become frantic. If it reflects alignment, you become powerful. So choose wisely. Every appointment is a contract. Every block of time is a brick in your identity. And eventually, that identity becomes your destiny. Because the life you want is not waiting on luck. It's waiting on alignment. And alignment is not found in grand intentions. It is carved into your calendar with surgical precision. Every minute is a mirror. Every hour is a vote. And if you've been casting votes for comfort, for distraction, for delay, then don't be shocked when your life feels misaligned. You cast those ballots. You chose to fill your day with things that starve your soul and feed your ego. But you can change your vote today. You can reclaim every block of time that's been rented out to the lowest bidder. You can pull your purpose back from the noise. You can take your calendar and make it a battle plan. Not just for productivity, but for peace. Because peace doesn't come from empty hours. It comes from earned alignment. From knowing that what you said mattered enough to schedule. Mattered enough to protect. Mattered enough to put on the map of your life like a sacred landmark. And the people who feel peace, they're not the ones with the most time. They're the ones who own it. They don't live by accident, they live by appointment. They don't let the urgent shove out the essential. They don't let the inbox dictate the vision. They decide what deserves a place in their day and eliminate the rest. That's leadership, not just of others, but of yourself. Because if you can't lead your calendar, you can't lead your future. You can't walk in purpose if your day is ruled by pings, by scrolls, by random requests from people who do not carry the weight of your vision. You are not here to be available. You are here to be effective. And effectiveness begins when you stop letting time leak from the seams of indecision. So get ruthless. Audit your schedule like your life depends on it, because it does. And ask yourself, hour by hour, does this grow me? Does this serve me? Does this reflect who I said I wanted to be? And if it doesn't cut it, no guilt, no apology, no delay. Because the world will always ask for more than it deserves. And your job is not to please it. Your job is to protect the flame, the fire inside you that flickers when you're aligned and fades when you're spread thin. Because if you spread yourself too thin, you disappear. And if you disappear from your own calendar, you disappear from your own calling. But not you. Not anymore. You are now the architect. You are now the author. And your calendar is no longer a list of demands. It is a declaration of who you are becoming. Then let the fire sharpen. Because this moment is not about managing minutes, it's about mastering meaning. You are not just creating a schedule. You are sculpting your standards. You are no longer reacting to time. You are redeeming it. Pulling it back from the hands of distraction. Pulling it back from the jaws of other people's expectations. Pulling it back from the noise that kept you moving, but never arriving. Because now you understand. Busyness is the enemy of clarity. And if your calendar is full but your spirit is empty, then something sacred has been sold off for cheap. This is where the war begins, not against the world, but against the version of you that let life happen instead of happening to life. That version is dead now. The new you don't chase time. You command it. You show up to each day with intention burning in your chest like a torch, lighting the path that others are still searching for in the dark. Because your character, your real character is not revealed when you speak. It's revealed when no one is watching and you still do the work. It's revealed when you open your calendar and there's proof of your purpose there, not just clutter, not just chaos, but proof that you've already decided who you are. It's in the workout you booked because your health matters. It's in the reading you scheduled because your mind matters. It's in the reflection time you carved out because your soul matters. It's in the conversations you prioritized because love and leadership are built in presence, not just performance. And when you stack enough of those moments together, you don't just have a productive week. You have a life of alignment. And alignment, it radiates. People will feel it when you walk in. They'll sense it in your silence. They'll hear it in your words. Because it's rare. Rare to meet someone whose schedule reflects their soul. Rare to find someone who protects their time like their destiny depends on it, because it does. Rare to see someone who no longer worships the grind but honors the mission. You are that person now. You don't chase every opportunity. You select them. You don't say yes to noise. You say yes to necessity. You don't need to explain your boundaries, your results. Explain them for you, because you are now a person of rhythm, of structure, of alignment. And your calendar, it no longer predicts confusion. It predicts character. It predicts who you are becoming. And every day, it delivers a message. I know where I'm going. I know what matters. I know who I am. And nothing is more powerful than that. Because when you truly know who you are, your calendar becomes your covenant. It becomes a sacred contract between your present actions and your future identity. No longer ruled by the chaos of convenience. No longer swayed by every distraction that flashes like a false god in the face of your focus. Now your time is spoken for. Your hours are no longer up for auction. Your priorities are no longer negotiable. You've built a rhythm that aligns with your reality, and you don't break rhythm for temporary relief. Because now you understand. The difference between the great and the forgotten is not found in intensity. It's found in repetition. Greatness isn't built in the highlight reels. It's forged in the hidden hours you blocked off when everyone else slept. It's found in the calendar entries no one claps for. Read, write, think, train, call mom, drink water, plan tomorrow. The world sees none of it. But your character is sculpted by all of it. Because your habits are a prophecy. Your calendar is not just where your time goes, it's where your life grows. And if you let just anyone or anything right in that sacred space, then you are handing over your future to forces that care nothing about your fulfillment. That's not noble. That's not generous. That's self-betrayal. Because every yes you give to the unnecessary is a no to what actually matters. And that slow bleed of attention, of presence, of energy, it kills legacies before they're even born. But you've put a wall around your garden now. You've chosen discipline over popularity, focus over flattery, design over drift. And it shows in the quality of your work, the sharpness of your mind, the steadiness of your soul, the peace that follows people who are unavailable for nonsense. Because when you decide your time is sacred, the world adjusts. It respects what you enforce, so enforce it. Let your calendar become a gate, not a revolving door. Let it reflect your highest self, not your loudest insecurities. Let it be your silent declaration that you will no longer live on accident, because you have chosen alignment. And every entry on that calendar, every quiet block of time, is you saying, I am worthy of this hour. I am ready for this level. I am building a life that will outlive me. And that is how your calendar becomes your character. And your character becomes your crown. Because your crown isn't something placed upon your head. It's something placed upon your habits. It's not worn with pride dates, earned with precision. And every crown is carved from consistency. Every ounce of respect you command. Every room you walk into where the air shifts. Every goal that doesn't just inspire you but obeys you. It's all traced back to the structure of your days, to how ruthlessly you protected the morning, to how fiercely you guarded the afternoon, to how intentionally you ended your nights not with distraction, but with direction. Because direction doesn't scream. It schedules. It writes things down. It knows that without a plan, purpose starves. Without a calendar, conviction fades. Without discipline, dreams drift into the graveyard of good intentions. So you stopped trying to find time. You started making time. Because people who find time live like scavengers. But people who make time, they live like sculptors. They chisel away at the unnecessary. They carve space for peace. They cut the fat and leave only the essentials. Because they understand time is not just a resource. It's a refinement. How you use it defines how sharp you are, how effective you are, how dangerous you are to every obstacle that once stood in your way. And when you live like this long enough, your calendar stops being just a tool. It becomes a testimony, not of how much you do, but of who you've become. Because real character is not built in public. It's built at 5:00 a.m. It's built when you turn off the phone to turn on your mind. It's built when you skip the party to build the plan. It's built when you say no to what's popular, to say yes to what's personal. And personal greatness, it doesn't beg for attention. It moves in alignment so deeply that the results speak in a voice louder than your own. Because the strongest people you know, the most grounded, the most focused, the most unstoppable, they're not the busiest. They're the most aligned. And that alignment, it was booked on a calendar long before it was seen on a stage. So if you want to know what kind of life you're creating, don't look in the mirror. Look at the schedule. That's the real reflection. That's the real version of you. The version that either honors the future or delays it. The version that either compounds strength or leaks energy. The version that either leads or lingers. So choose now and choose daily. What kind of life are you scheduling? Because that's the kind of life you're living. Then brace yourself. Because what comes next is not just a reminder, it's a reckoning. Because one day, the clock will run out. And when it does, you won't be judged by what you meant to do. You won't be remembered for what you hoped would happen. You'll be remembered for what you showed up for what you made time for what you sacrificed for, and most of all, for what you were willing to schedule when it was easier to sleep, easier to scroll, easier to stall. Your calendar is your confessional. It tells the truth when your words lie. It tells the truth when your excuses dress themselves as logic. It tells the truth when your ambition pretends it's action. Because you don't rise to your level of intention. You rise or fall to the level of your systems. And your calendar, that's the system of your soul. It tells the world what you really care about. It tells the future, whether you're ready or just rehearsing. It tells you whether you are walking in alignment or just surviving on adrenaline. So ask you seriously, silently, right now, does my calendar reflect my courage or my comfort? Does it reflect my conviction or my confusion? Does it reflect my legacy or my laziness? Because there will be a day not far from now when someone opens your calendar after you're gone. And it won't just be an archive of appointments. It will be an autopsy of your existence. It will show where your time went, where your life was spent, where your energy flowed, And it will answer the question, did they matter? Not just in intention, but in impact. And that impact, it starts now. It starts with the next block of time. It starts with you looking at your schedule and no longer seeing it as a burden, but as a blueprint. You don't need another guru. You don't need another book. You need to own your hours. Because once you do, the world changes. Your results shift. Your clarity sharpens. Your habits harden. And you become a force. The kind of force that doesn't beg for time. The kind of force that doesn't explain why they're unavailable for mediocrity. The kind of force that moves through the world with precision, purpose, and a plan that's already booked. You are that force now. Because you've remembered, your calendar is more than a tool. It is the altar of your alignment. It is the mirror of your mission. It is the map of your meaning. And now, you live by it with such clarity, such consistency, such conviction, that when someone asks what defines their character, all they'll have to do is look at your calendar, and the answer will be clear. Because you didn't just talk about purpose. You scheduled it. You protected it. You became it. And now, you don't just manage time. You master yourself. That is character. That is power. That is legacy.